Hello, everyone. My name is Garvin, and I review books and lately talk about Greek myths on the internet. Today, we're going to cover Helen of Sparta, or as she's more famously known, Helen of Troy. Helen, in some ways, is the root of me even digging into the lost epics and a lot of the material related to it. This links back to the book reviews. A number of my reviews are of independent authors, one of whom is KB Spangler, a lady who is also the author of the webcomic A Girl in Her Fed, who has a series of novels she wrote set in that same world. They're science fiction novels, and they're honestly pretty great. One of the novels she wrote, Greek Keys, talks about a part of Helen's life that I was unaware of up until then and started me researching to see if that was an actual part of the myths or if it was made up. What I found was a sprawling labyrinth of mythology, and here we are. So go read A Girl in Her Fed. There's a link in the description. Buy her novels. They're good science fiction with a twist, and tell her I sent you. Thank you. Speaking of labyrinths, Helen's story is kind of like one. It's huge, it's sprawling, way too many pathways, and most of it is hidden beneath the surface of pulp culture. Because of this, this video is going to be more like a choose your own adventure book than a straightforward narrative. Just kind of roll with me, folks. Starting with Helen's birth, we right away run into different accounts. In the Kypria, Helen is the daughter of the goddess Nemesis and Zeus. Nemesis turns into a swan to get away from Zeus, and Zeus just turns into a swan and chases her because we all know he's into transforming into things. The result of this is either a single or group of large, beautiful eggs who are found, given to, or implanted into Queen Leda of Sparta. In at least one version I've read, Leda keeps the eggs in a large jewelry box just because these are really super pretty eggs. The eggs hatch, and out comes Helen and her twin brothers Castor and Pollux. We'll get to them. And in some versions, Helen's sister Clytemnestra comes out of the egg as well. In the play Helen by the Greek writer Euripides, Zeus transforms into a swan and seduces Leda, and she lays an egg from which Helen and some of her other children hatched. In others, Zeus disguised himself to look like Leda's actual husband, Tyndareus, and slept with her. Soon afterwards, the actual Tyndareus shows up and sleeps with his wife, and this results in two sets of twins, Castor and Pollux, and Helen and Clytemnestra. In each set, one twin's the child of a god, and the other one the child of the mortal man. By the way, having twins with two different fathers is actually biologically possible. I looked it up. It's called heteropaternal superfecundation. Try saying that 5 times fast. So this is one crazy thing in Greek mythology that can actually happen. Woo! Now, before we get any further, let me go ahead and cover Helen's family because they're going to be reoccurring characters here. Since I've already mentioned them, I'll start with her parents. Leto was a princess from a kingdom to the northwest of Sparta. She's known for having pale skin and dark black hair, so think Snow White, really. Helen's father, or stepfather if you prefer, Tyndareus, is honestly known for having all kinds of luck, both good and bad. For example, he marries a beautiful woman who attracts the attention of Zeus, and now he has the headache of raising demigods. He was the king of Sparta, but got overthrown by his brother Hippocoon. But Heracles would come to the rescue, kill Hippocoon and his sons, and put Tyndareus right back on the throne. Tyndareus also had a non-troublemaking brother named Icarius, by the way, who's the father of Penelope, the long-suffering wife of Odysseus. All these intersections make me feel like I should have used the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a metaphor instead of Star Wars. Now, the most loved and revered relatives that Helen had were her twin brothers, Castor and Pollux, or if we're going to use their original Greek names, Castor and Polydeuces, who are also called the Dioscuri. I'm going to stick to the Latin ones for these. I know I said I would use Greek names whenever possible, but Polydeuces kind of makes me crack up a little bit, so I'm sorry. Now, both these guys are also worshipped as minor deities in their own rights, as the protectors of travelers, sailors, and guests. They're also known as being among the greatest horsemen of Greek mythology, and Pollux is straight up considered the greatest boxer in the heroic age. Now, despite being born at the same time as Helen, they seem to grow up faster because while she's at Sparta playing with dolls, they're taking part in great quests such as the Caledonian Boar Hunt, which also shows up in the story of Atlantia, and were members of the Argonaut crew led by Jason. You see what I mean about that Marvel Cinematic Universe crack. There's more to their story, but I'm going to jump back to Helen's sisters first. Helen's many sisters, I should say, who, due to Tyndareus forgetting to offer a sacrifice to Aphrodite one time, were cursed to be famous for their adulteries. So you see what I mean about his luck, right? First, there's Philinone, who only thing I could really find is she was a companion of Artemis and was made immortal, so I assume she liked hunting and the company of ladies over men. I also assume she's the smartest one in the family, as she dodged all the drama completely and got to be immortal on top of that. There's Phoebe, who I believe had the most normal life out of all of them, because all I can find written about her is she exists. Finally, there's Timandra, who is married to King Egemus of Tiga, who she leaves for King Philedes of Elis. Now, King of Philedes is also connected to Heracles, as he is the son of a king who owned the Aegean stables. He was banished for taking Heracles' side in the ensuing argument when he diverted that river, and he went off and founded his own kingdom. She's also the mother of a minor character in the Trojan War called Meges, who fought on the Greek side. Helen's most famous sister is Clytemnestra, who is mostly known for being the wife and murderess of Agamemnon. Clytemnestra had a much more sedate childhood than Helen, but as we see later, makes up for it later in her life. When Helen goes or is taken by Paris, Agamemnon gathers the fleet and armies of Greece, but the winds turn against him because he offends the goddess Artemis. Now he's told the gods will relent, but he's got to sacrifice his daughter Iphigenia. I'm skipping a lot of details here, but basically Clytemnestra is tricked into bringing her daughter to this, and Iphigenia gets her throat slit. I should note Achilles was entirely against this, which is a point in his favor, and Clytemnestra does not take this well. Not only does she take a lover while her husband is off fighting the Trojans, which I can't blame her for considering what he's up to, she murders Agamemnon and the priestess Cassandra when they return. Poor Cassandra. She is in turn murdered by her eldest son and surviving daughter. I'll get into that in another video. Anywho, back to Helen. By the time she's a very young child, by some accounts as early as age 7, everyone can see she's going to be a knockout when she grows up. And this prompts Theseus, the guy who killed the Minotaur and is considered one of the founding figures of Athens, to decide he's not going to wait. He's going to kidnap her now and marry her when she grows up. This is disgusting. I'm not going to dance around it. Theseus, however, finds out karma does catch up to you, though, when he heads off to the underworld to help his friend Pirithous kidnap Persephone, the wife of Hades. These are not wise men. They're just not. Hades is waiting for them and invites them to sit down and have a meal, and just like that, they're trapped, unable to move, and Furies are unleashed upon them. While this is happening, Castor and Pollux single-handedly declare war on Athens and win. They liberate Helen and carry off Theseus' mother as revenge. This is what I mean by them growing up faster, because they're supposed to be the same age as Helen. This is a little weird, isn't it? Also, I feel like this myth plays into the rivalry of Sparta and Athens as well. I know we're running a bit long here, but let me wrap up Castor and Pollex's story, since I'm sure a lot of you are wondering where were these guys during the Trojan War? Well, they got bored before Helen was kidnapped, and after all the wild adventures, and they decided to amuse themselves with the ever popular diversion of cattle rustling. Let me diverge a bit here. See, these stories might be told by the classical Greeks, but they take place in the late Bronze Age. And in the late Bronze Age, cattle are a big deal. The size of your herds is as much an indicator as your wealth as the amount of gold in your pocket. In fact, more so in some cases. And stealing cattle is considered a semi respectable, if dangerous, thing for young men to do. Of course, killing young men trying to steal your cattle is incredibly respectable, and this is a reoccurring source of conflict in myths across Europe. I haven't found any cattle rustling in Asian myths, but I haven't dug into that continent nearly as much, so who knows? Anyways, Castor and Pollux head to Messenia to steal some cows and kind of end up kidnapping a pair of young women named Phoebe and Hilaria. I know we've already had a Phoebe in this story, but stay with me. This enrages their cousins, who are also their fiancés, Idas and Licinius, who step in to object to this kidnapping with swords. In the ensuing brawl, everyone is killed except Pollux and the girls. Pollux then begs his father Zeus to be allowed to share his immortality with Castor, and Zeus consents. In some versions, this results in them becoming the star constellation Gemini. In others, Castor and Pollux spend one day in Olympus and the next on Hades, while in others, they just become minor gods with no real hook. Both the Greeks and the Romans would build temples and shrines to them, and they'd be fairly popular. Oh, quick note, Messenia would also be conquered by Sparta in the classical period and was the homeland to the Helots, the vast serf class that kept historical Sparta inbred and was the reason they were so militarized. Weird. Okay, so I know there wasn't a lot of Helen in this Helen video, but trust me, we're getting there. Join me next week and we'll cover Helen's first marriage and the many versions of Paris and Helen. By the way, if you're enjoying these videos, why not join us at my Patreon page where you can vote on upcoming book reviews and videos? There's a link in the description. Or if you'd like to take a look at my written book reviews, I've linked to those as well. There's 7 years of content there. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to give a special thanks to our top tier patron, Big Steve. Until next week, folks, stay strong, keep reading.